Hey, it's Kim. Thanks for clicking on today's video. Today I'm going to be going over my health planner that I'm setting up for 2025. I think I usually call it my health journal, health planner, same thing. So similar to previous years, I am sticking to a week size planner for 2025, and this year I'll be using the Sterling Ink Common Planner, and this is in the N2 size. It is a compact full year, and it's the horizontal one. And if you'll notice, this one is actually from 2024. So in the spirit of using up old planners and journals, I decided to just redate this one, and I'm sure that it will work perfectly for my needs. So that's what I'm going to do for 2025. I originally bought this one to use as my health journal in 2024, but I ended up using the Paper Test Designs instead. I kind of waffled a little bit, but I found that I preferred a bit of the structure that Paper Test Designs Weekly afforded me, at least in the beginning of the year. So that's why I opted to use that one for 2024. And here is my current one. As soon as the year begins, I will be switching immediately into the same exact cover. This one is the spek codex. Wait, is it called the codex? Standard codex? Yes, it's called the codex. This is the standard codex. It is a week size. I bought this off the buy sell trade group a couple of years ago. It's got Janet Leather black on the outside and Janet Leather brown on the inside. It serves my purposes really well. And though the Paper Test Designs planner is really thick, this fit just fine for me. There is a Codex Mega that is designed to fit a much thicker book like the Paper Test Designs, but it works for me. So like I said, I'll be using the same exact size, and honestly guys, it's pretty much the same exact setup. When I was trying to figure out how I wanted to decorate this or add a little bit of deco, add some flair, I was seriously considering doing the same exact thing that I did last year. I really wanted to use this terrazzo paper again, but I talked myself out of that and decided to switch to something a little bit different, a little bit of a different color scheme overall. And before we get into the insides of this one, I will give you a bit of an update, quick update on the current 2024. As you can see, as I predicted in the beginning of the year, I will not use these notes pages. I did not use these notes pages. I mean, I used a little bit, and a very, very, very little bit of them. So I do feel like in that regard, it's a little bit wasteful, and I knew that going in, but here we are. I will definitely repurpose or reuse this paper somehow, some way over the years. It'll definitely get used. So my health planner, I'm not really sure when's the last time I did the update video. But here is, for example, a spread that I put together from August. And this is pretty much what it's been looking like for the year. However, I think I stopped really tracking in here around August. So even, well, these are some, well, maybe one July spread, 2 July spreads that I didn't write down anything. But yeah, I just didn't come in here to write down anything. And the reason is because I wasn't following any kind of training plan that required me to kind of like see what I was supposed to be doing on which days. And that's honestly the absolute only reason why I wasn't in this more often. And I'll speak a bit more about that for 2025 in a minute. But my format is generally simple, at least I think, and the same for each week. I list out the workouts on the day, a little bit of maybe some notes about how the workout went or whatever. Up at the top, I like to define what my focus is going to be for the week, not just strength training or like workout focus, but also health, nutrition, anything really. And then on the right hand side, these little graphs and things that I add kind of varied a little bit through the year. But I do have like cycle day. I did have a weight section here that did not carry over because I don't weigh myself frequently. I have a nutrition where I'm tracking macros, so protein, carbs, and fats, and then like total calories. A section for sleep And I did continue with that section for sleep. In November though, I started tracking sleep in my daily planner, which is just my regular everyday common planner. And I was adding additional sleep information, like actual minutes and hours for different types of sleep and all of that. And then I use these list sections for various reasons. So the two down here at the bottom, I would usually always use for minutes and miles. And that's because I was training for a number of races, usually like half marathon races. So according to my training plans, I needed to hit a certain number of mileage for the week, and also a certain number of time on feet for the week. So that's why I was tracking minutes and miles. And then these two sections were kind of, honestly, I didn't really have a lot to track here, so I used them for whatever. This week I used for meal prep, things that I was planning to prep ahead of time. And then I will usually devote a section at the bottom for a summary. Obviously on this week, I did not do a summary. So if we flip over to, like I said, August was like the last time I was really in here. And then nothing for September, nothing for October. I feel like there was like a week in November. There wasn't a week in November. Okay, so basically September, October, and November, I didn't use this pretty much at all. I thought that was like a random week in here somewhere. Obviously not. So December, I did start back to using it again. Now, just because I didn't use this in September, October, and November doesn't mean I wasn't working out. Like I said, I wasn't following a training plan. So for whatever reason, I wasn't really checking in on my plans as it relates to health and nutrition and fitness. And that is something that I have realized. And because health is a priority for me, I do want to prioritize it. Duh. So I feel like I'm the type of person who needs to follow some kind of plan regularly. And that will help me like stay on top of things, to see what's going on and adjust accordingly. So I've taken to using it again in December because I do have kind of plans. I have plans leading up to like training plans that I want to start in January of 2025. So there are some things that I would like to do in December to be ready for those training plans in January. So this is actually the spread from last week. It's generally complete. I didn't do all of the sleep, but again, it's the same format with my focus for the week, my workouts, notes, cycle day, and then the nutrition I switched. I wanted to, and this is somewhere maybe back in August, I don't know. I was tracking how much protein I was getting, so I decided I don't care about the other macros necessarily, like the carbs and the fats. I really just wanted to know how much protein I was getting in, or I am getting in. And I have goals related to that. So I haven't started even paying attention to that again, but I do have a spot here on this tracker section of the spread so that I can note down the number of protein grams I'm eating each day. Ideally, that's where I would be putting that information. And then the next line in my nutrition area is for vitamins. So I'm just checking off whether or not I took my vitamins. Sleep is pretty much the same. Like I said, I didn't really fill in the whole week, but I'm okay with that. And then one of these lists I made into a self-care type of list. So the things that I want to do each week, or at least for the current week. So I list them out at the beginning of the week, and that involves not only physical things like facials and like red light therapy, but also, did I spend time reading? Did I spend time knitting? Did I spend time doing those cozy kind of hobbies that I like to do? I want to track that as well. And then end it with a summary for the week. And then here we are for the current week. Yep, and I need to update some of these. We're here, and I need to check off like what I did and add some notes about it. And also I didn't do anything over in this area. So that has been working well. This feels like home, feels comfortable. I like it. I love it. I'm going to continue the same setup, the same layout into 2025. And that's where I can show you kind of what's going on in here. So since I decided that I wasn't going to allow myself to use that same terrazzo paper, scrapbooking paper that I think I got from like Michael's or someplace, I opted to search for any kind of terrazzo prints that spoke to me. And I saw this bluish kind of one. It has like some blues, some orangey brown kind of colors in it. And I like this one. And I felt like it would work for a color theme for my health planner for this year. So if you can imagine, it's going to fit right into here. And that's why this paper doesn't go all the way across, because it's going to slide into there and you're not going to see this section. So it's going to be blue for 2025. And then getting right into it, I just have these first couple of pages paper clipped together because they're nothing. It's the 2024 calendar, which I'm not going to need or reference, obviously, in 2025. And then just that opening flyleaf sheet of paper. And in the Sterling Ink Common Planner, I believe all versions, maybe not, I don't really know, they do have this goal breakdown spread. Now, this is a spread that I do really like for health and fitness and wellness type of planning and tracking. So I decided that I do want to use this. So I'm glad that it's incorporated in my health journal for 2025. So what I've done so far is categorize my goals into strength, running, mobility, self-care, and personal development. So those are all the things that I feel relate most closely to health and wellness. So that's why they're in here. And instead of using what the categories are across the top, it's something like someday, definitely monthly, weekly, I don't know what else they say, but I changed them to overall, weekly, monthly, Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. And that is where I'm going to specify the goals that I have in each of these areas on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. So for instance, in the overall section for strength, my overall goal is the ability to push and pull my own body weight. I feel like as we get older, as we age, that is something that we all should strive to achieve and maintain. I mean, you hear about people who are like elderly and can't pick themselves up off the ground. Those are just things that I feel personally should be working towards, always maintaining at least that level of strength. And then for running, I do want to optimize my cardiovascular health as well as use it for stress relief. So that's how I find running to work for me. And that's what I want to focus on with my overall goal for running. I don't have any races planned for 2025. I'm not sure what's going to happen. We'll see. But my overall goals, I think, will never be something like date specific in that way. It's always just going to be, I want to focus on doing better in this general area of my life. And then for mobility, a level of flexibility that supports an active lifestyle. For self-care, prioritize relaxation and doing what brings me joy. And then for personal development, I want to try and be at least 1% better each day, as the saying goes. So those are the overall goals that I have for each of the categories. I haven't gotten into weekly and monthly specifics as of yet because I feel like that takes a little bit more thinking. For quarterly, since it's December, I kind of know for the most part what I want to focus on for the first quarter in these categories. For strength, I want to focus on calisthenics. For running, I want to focus on 5K training. And for mobility, I want to do more yoga. So that's easy enough to define for the first quarter. And this will be a document or a spread that kind of evolves and changes and shifts around. That's also why I'm slightly hesitant with regards to the weekly and the monthly. I'm thinking related to strength, running, and mobility, I can definitely define a number of times I want to do those types of workouts weekly or monthly. For self-care and personal development, I'm not sure what that looks like on a weekly and monthly basis, or how I would define my goals for it on a weekly or monthly basis. And then this little sticky note is where I was just kind of hashing out all of my ideas before I started setting this up. And it pretty much says the same thing that I wrote down here. And it's likely going to live here until I start using the planner. So the next part, we also have those quarterly pages where on the right hand side you get the vertical calendar for the year or for the quarter, and then on the left hand side you get a box for priorities and then a box for each month of that quarter. So what I did here is define my priorities for the first quarter of 2025 like I said, it's December, so I pretty much know what I want to do. And that's to reestablish my workout routine, focus on increasing strength, rebuild my base mileage, and that's for running, and prioritize time for hobbies. So that's the general goal, general gist of what I'm doing for the first quarter of 2025 as it relates to my health and fitness. And then for January, I did set this up. I have adopted a color coding system. So in 2024, I also had a color coding system, and this was to track the workouts that I was doing, the types of workouts, and I did also note down the steps here. So that's what this kind of layout looks like. So my color coding system is going to be a bit different for 2025, and also I'm using dot markers, whereas I was using Tombow markers for this year. I'll be using dot markers for next year, and those are the Zig clean color dot markers, and I should take those out. Hold on. Okay, here are the dot markers that I'll be using for each of the categories that I have going on in my, I guess, tracking for my health. So for running, I'm using this blue color that is called denim. For strength, I'm using this one that's called fawn. And then for cycling, I'm using this greenish color that is kiwi. For mobility, I'm using this brownish beige color called oatmeal. So those are the 4 colors that I'm using for tracking my workouts, like the types of workouts I'm doing. And then I did give a color for self-care. That's the one called Wisteria. I didn't pull that one out. And then there's a greenish one. Not sure what it's called. It may be like grayish green. Yep, I think it's grayish green. And that's the one I use for personal development. So on this left-hand side, I did a dot for each of the categories because we like color. And I intend to define what my focus is going to be in each of these areas for January. I'll do the same thing for February, same thing for March. So that's the intention of this left-hand side of the quarterly spread. And then over on the right-hand side, I will continue to track the workouts that I'm doing each day, or the types of workouts that I'm doing each day, and I'll use the dot markers accordingly. So for these columns, there are 6 grids across. So, I mean, ideally, or essentially, I would have enough little grid spaces to note down 6 different workouts that I'm doing in one day. Of course, I'm not doing that many in one day. It doesn't make any sense. But if I wanted to, I could. I suppose I could. I only have 4 different categories anyway. And again, it's not even likely that I would do all these 4 on the same day. But if I wanted to, I could. So that is the idea. I will use a dot for each of the types of workouts I'm doing for that day. And even though in 2024, I did write down my steps, I don't care about steps. I think I just did it so that it wouldn't look so blank and so boring. That's really the only reason why I did it. I did track my total mileage per month up at the top, and that's something I want to continue for 2025. So I will likely write that down at the bottom, this little bottom box that you get for each month. We'll put my total mileage for the month. And then up at the top, I did continue with something I started in 2024 but didn't kind of see to completion, which was like establishing a goal for the month. So actually, I think I did this in 2023. So I want to establish a goal for each month. What that goal is going to be, I don't know. But for January, I have 100 grams of protein per day. So I think if I meet the goal, I'm going to use the black dot marker and dot it somewhere on each of the day. And that will signify that I hit the goal that I was aiming for. And for instance, the February goal might be, maybe I want to have a green smoothie every day. Or actually, I wouldn't set that goal. My goal might be to incorporate more green smoothies, and then I will just note how many I've had throughout the month using this black dot marker. So that's the idea behind how I'm going to use this spread. And I do like this. I like having this in the health planner for 2025, along with having the goals. I feel like this is a better way for me to visualize what's going on, for me to see, what's actually happening. And then as we get into the months, so this is the monthly for December, technically for December 2023, since this is a 2024 planner, but I don't need the spread for anything. I do just have a little note to myself that I will use the monthly spreads for planned workouts and events as in like if I'm running a race or something. I will calculate total weekly mileage and total weekly workouts by category. So for the months currently, I'm pretty much doing that same thing. So writing down before the month gets here what the workouts are that I plan to do. And then when the week gets here, I actually will sit down and decide what days I'll be working out. So for instance, on Sunday, I figured I would definitely be working out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I knew that I was going to be off on Monday, likely off on Friday, and then maybe something on Saturday. So even though it doesn't reflect here on this monthly spread necessarily, I do have pretty much the same number of workouts, just arranged differently on the actual week. And then here's where I also do total my weekly mileage. And you can see, I guess, better examples of that back when I was running a whole lot. That's just what I put in those little sections there. So I will do the same exact thing. The only thing I didn't do in 2024 was total the workouts by category. I'm not sure if I need that information. I think it'll be pretty to look at, but I don't know. I do have a space for it, so I'm going to use the space for it. In setting up the monthlies, because I'm redating, I need to use stickers, obviously, to redate. So I have this sticker book from, what is it? Happy Planner. And this is the Happy Memory Keeping. And I used these numbers and the month titles to just cover up the dates that were already in here. And they are transparent stickers, but I feel like because they are so bold, they cover up the numbers that were already there. So I didn't even bother whiting out the numbers that were already on the monthly. As you can see here, like it still has the first and the second, and then I'm just starting the first here. So I don't care. So I'm just going to use it like this. And then at the bottom, again with my color coding, I have a section to write down, the types of workouts. And then here I'll total the number of the different workouts. Honestly, I don't know why I might use this information throughout the year. But again, it's just something pretty to look at. And then my total mileage, I can write down here. But also, like I said, I will likely maybe put it on this spread at the bottom of the month anyway. I'll see where I like it best. So I did set up January, February, and March so far with the numbers. I did put the month titles on all the other months, but I didn't redate yet. I'll do that like on a Netflix night. So that's how I intend to use the monthlies. Again, pretty much the same as how I've been doing it. So the weeklies, because this structure is a little bit different than the paper test designs, or I should say it doesn't have as much structure as the paper test designs, I do need to figure out exactly how I'm going to lay out the layout per se. And I'm going to do the same thing over on the left hand side. I'll make one half to list out the actual workouts and then one half for notes related to those workouts. And then on the right hand side, I do still want to define what my focus is going to be for that week. And then maybe some other tracking. I definitely want a summary at the bottom, but I don't need all those other lists that were available to me in the paper test designs planner. So this is actually a little bit better for my life at the moment, because I don't need, should I put this here? Because I don't need all that other information or all those other lists or areas for lists that felt like, they weren't being used at all. So I will kind of decide for myself how this spread is going to evolve. But I do know that I can set up each of the, I guess, like frameworks for the weeks to start with. So I am using my Uni-Pen PIN fine liner, and this is in the dark gray color and the 01. I like to use this instead of like a dark black line, kind of when I want a subtle line. And I find it to be a little more subtle than even a pencil line. So that's why I'm using that. So I'll put the line for each of the months, each of the weeks. And then I do want to carry forth the same kind of rotation of colors that I used in 2024. So for each of the months, there was like one specific color. So for instance, for January, I'll just start at the top of the color palette and I'll use this blue zig dot marker. This again is the denim one. And for, I guess, the title areas, that's what I'll kind of use. So I'm just trying to decide like how I'm gonna write this. So I don't even know how it'll look if I write over that. So I'll just write workouts and notes there, and then here. So it's a little dark on the page. It does have a like fine liner on the other side, which I could have also written the titles out with, but whatevs. So I'm going to use that. And then the pen that I usually use in my health planner is this TWSBI Rose Gold 580 Diamond. And that is what I'll use to write out my little headings. So yeah, the blue is kind of dark, but it's fine. So I have a spot for workouts, notes, focus. And then again, like I said, I will do a summary down at the bottom. And I have to decide what I want to put in the middle of the page. And I do kind of feel like I should have planned this out beforehand, but do I ever? Not really. So I'll just write a line here. That'll be the focus area. I'll be able to write down what I'm focusing on. And this will be the line for the summary area. If I was paying more attention, I would have made it even with, oh, you can't even see it. So that's the section for the summary. And I would have evened it out with this bar over there, but we weren't paying attention. So now, what other sections am I going to want on this weekly spread? So I was tracking sleep, and I'm not sure how that's going to evolve on this spread. Like, how do I want to track it? I honestly don't know. I don't know if I want to track, to do like a bar graph, to do a line graph, to write down those other numbers, like how much deep sleep, how much REM, how much core sleep. I'm not sure if I want to do all of that or how I want to do all of that. So I have to do some thinking. But for the time being, I can test out what this marker looks like on this section. And that looks a little bit better to me than the bold lines of marker that I did previously. So that's the general setup for the weeks. Really simple, at least I think, pretty straightforward. Nothing too deep. And I'll do that, just put those headings in for each of the weeks. As you can see, I'm not even bothering to white out. I think it said like January 2024 right there. Just wrote over it. And I don't know if I'll consider this week No, I consider this week February. So I'll wait until I figure out which color February is going to be. Again, I'm just going to cycle through these colors that I selected to be kind of like the vibe for the whole notebook or for the whole journal. And then I could just use like this dot marker to pretty up some things. So when I do come in here and write down what the focus is going to be for this week, I'll just write it there. Those markers do bleed through, or let me rephrase, ghost quite a bit on this paper. I don't mind ghosting, so if you do, you might mind. So that's going to be the general weekly layout for my health planner. Nothing different. If you've seen my previous videos all about my health planners, really nothing new, nothing different. I like to keep it simple. I'm going to keep it generally the same. Oh, and the tabs that I use are the same ones that I used from last year. They are the tabs that come in the Travelers Company sticker set. So the one for 2025, the smaller tabs were in this blue color, and I felt like it worked out great because it coordinates with the blue terrazzo vibe that I selected for the interior. So that works just well. When I saw the Travelers Company stickers, and I do have a haul video on my channel, I actually was not very thrilled about that blue color, but it's fine. Now I'm thrilled about it. It works. And speaking of this terrazzo, I actually just went on Google and I think I searched blue terrazzo and some images popped up. This was one of them. I printed it out and stuck it in here with some self-adhesive or some adhesive runner. And that's it. Nothing fancy. So after all of the weeklies, then we get into the notes section. And again, I don't know that I'll be using a lot of these notes pages, but it's far fewer than the notes pages I had in the Paper Test Design, so I will feel a lot less wasteful. So what I intend to do over on the left-hand side here is set up my index. I can show you kind of what that looks like here. So I have it labeled or titled Table of Contents here, and then I have it in 3 sections. There is another blue marker I could use. It's Tombow 526. I think it'll work nicely with this, since I can't really write with the other zig marker without some bleed through. I should be able to use the Tombow marker just fine. Do I want to write Table of Contents or Index? Let's just write Index. Again, that's Tombow 526. I think it's called True Blue or some similar name. All right, so this is where my index is going to go, and I'm going to note the 3 different sections that I have back here in the notes pages and what's included in those 3 sections. So here on my little sticky note when I was brainstorming, it's generally going to be the same sections that I had in 2024. So there's a section for trackers, a section for training, and a section for notes. The tracker section, I'm tracking lean body mass, migraines and cycle, and body measurements. I did not add any of the tables for cycle and migraine into here because I'm a little on the fence, because I do track that information in my regular planner. So I didn't know if I wanted to be redundant. In 2024, I didn't continue even, I think after April, I didn't even use the trackers in here to update that information. So I don't know if I still want to track it in this book, but we will see. But the strength tracker, I am still setting it up the same way I had my previous one. And this isn't completed as of yet, but it is exactly the same. And because I wasn't even really focusing on strength last year, it didn't even get used. But I like the idea of it. So I'm tracking 6 main lifts to see what my progress is month over month. And I have a spot to record the max reps or whatever, max weight for all of the months. So that's exactly how I intend to use this tracker here. And then I have a tracker for measurements and lean body mass. So measurements is pretty straightforward. I think lean body mass is also straightforward. I got the idea to track this from a commenter on one of my previous videos. Thanks again, whoever you were. I did feel like that was a good thing to track, especially if you are focusing on increasing strength or, you know, muscle mass in general. I think that's a good tracker to put in there to see month over month, because you could be, you know, recompositioning your body and your weight stays the same, but your muscle mass would increase as your fat mass goes down. Yada, yada, yada. So I don't weigh myself. So I wanted to have something else to track to see improvement. So one of those things is measurements to see, you know, if you're losing fat in certain areas or whatever. And also lean body mass helps to see improvement in those areas. So those are two trackers that I feel would be extremely important, because 2025 I am focusing a lot more on strength training, a lot less on endurance training. So I don't have a lot of pages devoted to trackers because, again, I couldn't think of other trackers to put in here. If you have any ideas, definitely leave them down below. I'm always looking for new things to track as it relates to health and fitness. I do feel like I could track things regarding nutrition, but I don't know. I do have gluten sensitivities. So at one time when I was kind of dealing with a lot of inflammation, I was tracking it on my regular tracker and my planner, like what days I had gluten, so I could kind of line those up with what days I was feeling terrible. But I don't know that I would want to track something like that in here. So I can't think of any other nutrition-based trackers at the moment, but I'm sure I will. And then the second section is devoted to training, and I have in here a training log. So this is something that I added last year, and I really did enjoy it. And it's whenever I start a new plan, and I'm noting down like what days I'm starting the plan, and also when I end the plan and any notes related to it, because there are times when you're like, you might look at an older picture and you're like, what was I doing then? Because I was doing it right. I was doing really well back then. So you might want to know like what lifting plan you were doing or what running plan you were following. So that is what this training log is for. In the training section, I don't have anything else at the moment. On my little note to myself, I did have under that category, so it says training plans, current and future. So I could actually have like this log for what I actually start, and then even right after it, a spread for things that I might see and want to kind of circle back to later after I'm done with an actual training plan. So that's a good idea for like any future options. And then I also have progressive overload progress, which is helpful. I'm just trying to think of, again, how I would put that into a written format. Do I want to write down what I was squatting this week and then what I'm squatting 3 weeks from now? Maybe. I don't know. I need to do a bit more research of how to make that look good on a spread. And then I also do have endurance and race nutrition plans. That's also under training. It's something that comes in handy. And I actually ripped this out of my last, my 2024, because I wanted to include this in here, because this is something that I needed to follow when I was training for half marathons last year. And I did my 5th half marathon in May of 2024. And it wasn't until then that I kind of figured out this whole nutrition thing. And I was like, oh, wow, that really worked. So I know that I would definitely forget this information. And I also wrote down like the number of carbs and the number of like gels that I took on that run, the number of like how much sodium I was intaking, because it worked. So I know that if I do another race, I'm going to want to have this information to refer back to. So I will likely tip this in. I just ripped it out and it's very crude. I will clean it up and just tip that in. But that is something else that I'll keep in the training tab of my notes section. And then at the 3rd tab is notes. So that's just going to be pretty much whatever. I don't have anything in there as of yet, but on my little plan, I have future plans. Yeah, so I guess like future goals, maybe something that's not necessarily related to the current goals at the moment, but something that I know I want to focus on in the future. And also health notes. So for doctor's visits and dates. And then I was thinking whether or not I wanted to include information like that for my family as well. I do have what I call a companion planner, and I have videos on my channel about it. I haven't used it very much in the past like year and a half. But that is where I would usually put down that information about doctor's visits and everything for the family. But since I'm in this planner a lot more, this might be a better place for it. So again, I'm still thinking through how I'm just going to represent that inside of this planner, but I think that's what I'll be using these notes pages for. That would definitely be a better use of these notes pages throughout the course of the year. So that's how I have everything set up for my health and fitness planner for 2025. I'm really excited to get started. I'm excited to kind of start filling it in. I feel like that's where the real magic happens. That's when I can actually show you what it's doing. I can show you how it's working for me. Because now I can tell you all about my plans, but I feel like there's more value in seeing exactly how I use it. So I'm excited to share a lot more about that in the coming months. So if you don't want to miss any of those, definitely feel free to subscribe. I would love it if you did. And if you found any of this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. So that wraps up my 2025 health and fitness planner, and I thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll get right back to you. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.